Namaste everyone and welcome to another session on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today we will research chapter 3 verse 36 to 39. Arjuna said, "Now by which motivation is a person impelled to performing wretched actions, not wishing to be constrained even by force?" To this Sri Krishna said, "Desire for this, anger at this, are expressions of passion. This is a major, voracious, and wretched penetrative foe. Just as smoke envelops fire, dust covers a mirror, the womb envelops the embryo, so is this covered. Wisdom of the wise is enveloped by this constant enemy in the form of desire, unsatiated and all consuming fire."
One of the most important things in this particular set of three verses is the understanding of what is this that is covered. This is the truth or the Brahman. The source of all existence is covered by a wind, by dust, by Maya, like a smoke envelops fire, dust covers a mirror, and the womb envelops an embryo. So these are all situations which seem real, but they actually are not. So let's start with this. Desire for this and anger at this are expressions of passion. This is a major, voracious, and wretched penetrating foe. Now, what happens is that when we get into any situation, we either experience raga or dvesha. Raga means we like it, dvesha means we dislike it, so we push it away. And that's why karma starts. But the motivation for karma or the cause of karma comes from our desire for a particular object or a desire against a particular object. The root of that desire comes from our conditioning that you are in the right if you go after this, you are in the wrong if you don't go after this. So, right and wrong are instilled within us, and this becomes our conditioning, our natural state. So, at this stage, so whenever we get some inputs, or we see, or we get into a situation where we like what we see, then we move closer towards that object. When we dislike something, we move away from the object. Suppose you like a car, you would automatically want to buy it. So you'll sit in it, you go for a test drive. If you don't like a car, you will say it's rubbish, I'm not even going to go to the workshop, or I'm not even going to the showroom, I'm not going to go and check the car out. As a result, this like and dislike make drive our passions. What is it that drives that conditioning? Our sense of identity. Our sense of self worth, our sense of identity drives everything that we have hitherto thought we like or dislike. That sense of identity comes from the Brahman. From the Brahman, there is a temporal vibration called spandana. That spandana then arises, comes out in the form of a creative force. And that creative force emits a pulse called pranava or om, and from that the materiality begins to emerge. It does not necessarily have to be only the case of the universe, it's everything within the universe, even our own thoughts. Any thought we have comes first from nothing. Like, for instance, Archimedes, he was bobbing in a bathtub, completely in a different world, in a state of nothing. When suddenly the concept of buoyancy came to him. So it came from nothing. Or Newton, reflecting on the apple falling to the ground, was in a state of nothing. He was sitting in an orchard, just sitting under a tree, and he saw the apple fall. And it triggered. That is that atemporal vibration. The trigger is called spandana. Now, when the spandana comes, we have two options. We can either grab that idea, or we that idea need not even register inside us. In the case of Archimedes and in the case of Newton, that registered. The registry then evolved into a law of buoyancy and the gravity and things like that. It's not as if gravity and buoyancy did not exist. They existed before also. But they were brought forth as specific outcomes by these people. So, what Sri Krishna says is that these natural states are all there in the universe. But when we actually relate to it, then we begin to get into what we call raga and dvesha. And when we like something when we are conditioned to something like this, that this is right and this is wrong, what we end up doing is beginning to get a passion towards that particular outcome. When we get driven by that passion, depending on the strength of the passion and that which is driven by our own strength of identity, we are willing to do what it takes to get that particular object. So that is what he means when he says that desire for this and anger at this are expressions of passion. Kamya karma. Kamya karma means any action that is driven by passion. Kamya is not necessarily only sensual. Kamya karma is also karma that is driven by passion. So when that is, if I relate it to the puruṣārthas of our dharma, what does our puruṣārtha say? All human existence is driven by four objects: artha, kama, dharma, and moksha. So artha means what? The material aspect. Kama is the passion, the sensual aspect. Dharma is the framework on which we function. And moksha is the transcending of all this so that we merge with the source of all creation. Artha, for instance, is, is the hardware of anything. For example, if you get a mug, you will like the mug provided it is a nice mug. What does nice mean? The mug should be good, should be functional, and the second is it should look good. So artha and kama are interrelated. They are constantly related to each other. Without the hardware, you cannot have the software. But without the software, the hardware is useless. So any object needs a hardware and a software. This is the fundamental of all existence. So, artha and kama weave with each other so that we get an overall positive experience. Dharma is the framework on which we consider what is good and what is bad. We say a stool is that which has got four legs on which we can sit or keep things. But when it becomes bigger, we call it a table. When it is used for eating, we call it a dining table. When it is used to sleep on, it is called a bed. When people come to our house and they sit on it, it's called a sofa or a chair. But it has only four legs, it has a flat surface. It is the same thing that has got multiple names, but it doesn't change the function. It is still dharma. The dharma of the chair or the table or the bed is to keep somebody above at a particular height above the ground. That's it. Moksha is recognizing the temporariness of all this and figuring out that the source from which everything comes is the thing that is the reason why we exist. We must know where we come from. This is what he is trying to say. Because next, just as smoke envelops fire, Dust covers a mirror. The womb envelops an embryo. So is this covered. This is the Brahman. Let us do. Yes, sir, Ramchandran, sir. Ramchandran, sir, please speak.
You were talking about artha, kama, dharma, and moksha.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, basically, as a human being, we are totally going by the artha and kama.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, suppose depending on what is the artha and kama, we follow the dharma, right? Then is it possible to get moksha? Or they
No,
are two totally different things?
so dharma is the framework on which artha and kama will sit, sir. For example, the constitution of India is the dharma of this land. On that dharma only we have cities, architecture, we drive on the left hand side of the road, signal green means you can go, red means you have to stop. Artha and Kama is that. But that is based on the dharma of the land, the dharma of how, like for instance, we follow Sanatana Dharma, which is a particular dharma. Now the thing is that dharma is on which we consider all things to be good or bad. Like for instance, people who follow Sanatana Dharma will wear vibhuti or they wear bindi. For them it is normal. And the way it is placed is determined by the artha and the kama. Because the conditioning, the dharma is saying that you have to have it in the forehead and you have to wear it in a particular manner. Ladies wear saris. How they drape the saris is artha and kama. But sari is specific to India. The dharma of the land is specifying when they wear the sari in that particular manner, there is order. When the sari is worn in a particular manner, there is disturbance. It causes turbulence. It becomes adharma. But the ability to recognize that all this is temporary, and that is what Sri Krishna says in chapter 2, that you have to first of all see that this is a temporary phenomenon. What you are talking about today is only temporary. And that everything is preordained. You have already got this thing, everybody is going to go into the same place. And to recognize the source, you need to put in that effort. So that particular understanding of the source means transcending even dharma. So artha, kama, dharma need to be transcended. You have to go past it. You have to negate it in order to get to moksha.
Okay.
Am I making sense to you?
Right, right. I think the word you have used, temporary, makes all the difference between dharma and moksha.
Yes, it is the what we consider to be see for us. This is our reality. The reality is this particular room, this particular machine, this particular mobile. All this becomes our reality. But actually, it is not real because it all has a date. Even the mobile phone has a date of expiry. Everything has a date of expiry. The minute you understand that that has a date of expiry, and you need to know what exists beyond that date of expiry. So it's called Samvriti Satya or transactional truth. Paramartha Satya is the absolute truth. So we are now constantly living in a state of Samvriti Satya or transactional truth. We are all relating to each other on a particular framework. The minute we realize that this framework is temporary and we need to find what is it that drives everything and from where does this conditional truth that we consider to be real is. The minute we find that, then what happens is that we realize that this state of existence that we have is temporary. The minute I close the class is over. There is no permanence. However, if you realize that, then the class is not no longer important. The message becomes important.
Yeah.
So
Right.
when you understand that the truth that the base on which we are made, let me give you another example. Let us say that you have a bowl of water. In the bowl of water, you put some clay and you stir it. When you stir the water, the water will become murky and you can't see the other side. So that is the way which is obstructing us from the other side. Let us say that the other side is the truth, the Brahman. Now, whatever we are seeing inside into the bowl of water is our reality. We think that that is the real thing. But let us say that we allow it to settle down. What will happen? The clay will go to the bottom of the jar and our vision will become slightly better. But it will still not be perfect. Why? Because there will be sediments on the wall of the jar which will prevent you from seeing the truth. So you have to remove even that. So let us say that this solid elements of clay that are there in the water are artha and kama. The jar itself is dharma, and that sedimentation is the subtler elements of artha and kama. So the only way you can go see the truth is when you remove the clay from the water, when you clean out the sides of the jar, and you have to make sure that the jar slowly begins to have become thinner in the wall, and then you are able to transcend that jar so that you can see the other side. Am I making sense, sir?
I got it.
So,
I get it. I get it. It's
Uh,
very clear now.
does it mean that you
now
have to give up all artha, kama, and dharma?
here, no, no, this is a very interesting question, sir. Um, at the end of so this is what we were doing in the previous classes. So you cannot escape karma. Karma is something that is happening continuously. So you are being affected by a karma that is a series of actions which come to you, or something that comes from within. So karma comes from two places. Either you are exposed to stimulus for which you have a response, or from within there is a motivation which drives you into doing something. In this thing, the key thing here is you. When you act, you have karma. But if the action is happening, you are not there. So when you separate the personality from the problem, from the person from the action, then what happens is that the action is happening, but the person is removed from it. That means the karma is not being done by the person. The person is like a is like an actor in the whole thing. He's watching the whole show, but he's not impacted by it. So that means why is the problem of Maya a circular problem? Because every time we act, we get personally involved in the action. When we become personally involved in the action, the push and pull is done by us. When we directly do the push and pull, what we then do is that the result of the action comes to us personally. So we either have a debit balance or a credit balance. But both debit and credit balance need to be neutralized. Because this debit and credit balance needs to be neutralized, if we are unable to finish it in this life, we then have to carry it over to another life and exhaust it. But then there also we don't understand that we are involved in the action. But the minute you separate yourself from the action and become like a lotus in a pond, the karma hits you and then falls off. You are not getting the outcome of the action on yourself. So you are acting, but you are not getting the outcome. When that happens, then the whole business of your it becomes irrelevant whether you are acting or not acting. Am I making sense, sir?
Yeah. That's very very nice. The one more thing is when you are saying about the water in a glass container, you said even that container should become thin and go off. That means even dharma is not necessary.
Dharma, you have to transcend. The dharma is actually an impediment.
Dharma is an impediment.
Dharma, it is. See, let's look at it this way. No, we are stuck. Let us. If all human beings are equal, why do we need religion? Why do we need a constitution? Why do we need order? Why is it that the constitution of India is different from the constitution of USA? Why is it that America says that feels empowered to criticize other countries? This is irrelevant, no? If we are all in the same basis, the same human beings, so that itself is an impediment. You have to transcend it.
So,
Yes,
so
sir.
artha, kama, and dharma, all three should go. Then only get
Yes,
moksha.
yes. You have to transcend it. See, you cannot live in society without dharma. There is so otherwise there will be no order. There will be only chaos. So because order is required, because there's another thing. When we go to chapter 6, five, we will realize that you cannot get moksha if there is no dharma.
Yeah.
So dharma is the order or the framework
Framework.
on which you begin to feel at peace. So when you are in a place which is administered well, a town which is administered well, you don't worry about getting water, electricity. The auto rickshaw driver is not a problem. When you are happy, when you're contented, then you are able to look inward. When you begin to look inward, then the outside becomes irrelevant
Yeah.
because you have taken. So dharma is a hygiene factor. Without dharma, you cannot get moksha. A land which is deeply troubled, you cannot find peace sitting inside a place where there is firing going on everywhere. Everybody is fighting with everybody is screaming at each other. You will never find peace. So for that peace to exist, first dharma is required. So dharma is a conditional requirement. It is a hygiene factor. But if you insist that only dharma is required, then you will never get to moksha.
Okay.
Am I making sense?
Yes, but artha and kama have to be given up completely.
Artha and kama cannot be given up. What you need to do is stop getting attached to it. That is, suppose you are wearing a t-shirt. It should not matter to you whether you are wearing a white t-shirt or a black t-shirt. It should not matter to you how you look. There are people you find who will be doing all the time. I mean, who will be looking at the mirror and then trying to. You have to stop that. You have to stop getting attached to the various paraphernalia which define your existence. Your food needs to be simple. So you start simplifying your life to a point where your dependency on dharma, artha, and kama is low. So when it becomes low and so then what happens is if you don't have it, you are not agitated. So the starting point is dharma. Without dharma, you cannot get to the rest. And if you look at the various ashramas, brahmacharya ashrama, grahastha ashrama, vanaprastha ashrama, and sannyāsa ashrama, that is how they are also graded. In brahmacharya ashrama, you learn what is dharma, how order has to be maintained. In grahastha ashrama, you exploit dharma, you exploit artha and kama. You are actually a consumer
Yeah.
because you have children, you have to send them to school, you have to do this, you have to do that. You need a bank balance in order to protect your retirement. All of that is happening. So that is where you are a productive member of society, but also you are a consumer. Thereafter, in Vanaprastha, what are you doing? You are saying enough. So you move. You've already got your medical insurance, you've got your pension plans, you've got all of that. So you are not a sponge on society, but you are still there as part of the society, but you have stepped back from the hustle and bustle of Grahastha. The children are settled and you have moved back. So what has happened? If you at this stage, if what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to slowly drop your need for artha and kama. The minute you drop your need for artha and kama, the impact of dharma on you begins to automatically reduce because your need for dharma has gone down. After that, as artha, kama, dharma start having a reduced impact on you, you are supposed to then reflect on the source itself. So it is not as if you can do away with one. You have to all these are have to be balanced out harmonically, and they have to be brought down to a point where you are then able to cognize the source.
Very clear. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very clear. Excellent.
Thank you, sir. So, wisdom of the wise is enveloped by this constant enemy in the form of desire, unsatiated, and all consuming fire. Obviously, this is quite straightforward. I mean, in the sense that once you get attracted to something, then the need to possess artha and kama, whether then what happens is that it becomes so high that dharma does not is becomes you begin to suppress dharma in order to possess it. The minute you suppress dharma in order to possess artha and kama, when kama is driving the artha, then you are suppressing dharma, then automatically chaos, turbulence is the result.
Let us recap. When we pull something towards ourselves or push something away, we cause a movement, and this is called karma, which means action or work. But karma, or the decision to like or dislike, or to bring to closer or to push further away, comes because of dharma, which means that state where we are completely in our natural state. So, dharma comes from the root word dhru in Sanskrit, which means that which is firm, resolute, which means our natural state, conditioning, or value system. Because in this state, we are in equilibrium, which means that when we are in equilibrium, we are at peace. So, dharma is our natural state where we are at peace, there is no stress, turbulence, or chaos. And this is known as homeostasis, which is a psychosomatic equilibrium. So, we can say that dharma is the design intent of an entity, and this is the basis on which we decide whether we like or dislike something, due to which we bring that item or entity closer to us or push it further away, thus causing karma. We have puruṣārthas, which is the reason for our existence. Puruṣārtha means that reason for which we exist. And there are four. That is artha, which is the material aspect, kama, which is the sensual aspect, dharma, the order or value system by which we take decisions, and lastly moksha, which is liberation. We go through four stages in life or ashrama. The first stage is brahmacharya-a, the second stage is grahastha, the third stage is ṇaprastha, and the fourth stage is sannyāsa ashrama or renunciate stage. During the brahmacharya-a, we do not get exposed to too much of artha or kama, just what we get from our parents and what we use. But in grahastha, we maximize our usage of artha and kama because we have to run a family, we need the money, we need to go and get things done and things like that. Also, artha and kama are intertwined with each other. Artha is the hardware and kama is the software. In other words, artha is the form, that which gives a entity any shape, and kama is the function, that which gives an outcome. So the two of them together weave with each other and give us the indication as to whether they are attractive or not attractive, which is also based on dharma, which results in our liking or disliking it. Dharma is the framework on which we act. That framework which tells us that we are in a state of order, our value systems are functioning, and everybody is happy. This is taught majorly at brahmacharya-a. It's applied in grihastha and transcended in sannyāsa. Lastly, moksha or liberation is the merger with the source or Brahman. This also means is a state where we transcend maya or samvritti satya or transactional truth. This can be done through any of the 4 stages in life, but mostly it comes in when we are practicing sannyāsa. Thank you very much. Please do like, share and subscribe. And if you wish to get more information, please do visit my channel www.schoolofyoga.in.